Okay, so welcome to Bounce Back for Business for one of our live sessions with one of our sponsors. And I have with us today Tabitha Runacres from Mid Suffolk District Council. So welcome, it's great to have you here with us today, Tabitha. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your organisation.
Yeah, so I am the Town Centre Division Coordinator for Babergh Mid Suffolk District Council. Started in January this year, so joining during the pandemic is always an interesting time, staying at home. But my role is focused on the vision work, which means working with stakeholders and partners across our 5 key market towns. So that is Stowmarket, Hadley, Sudbury, Needham Market and and it's focusing on those across the district to bring forward opportunities to drive future growth, sustainability, and also quality of life within our towns.
Brilliant. So doing a load for those, as you say, those key towns, of which the Stowmarket district area, which we're here supporting, is one of those. So it's great to have you with us. And you've come in during a pandemic. So in the middle of that, you've been trying to rescue and help businesses as part of that. So that's fantastic. Now, I know one of the things that you've been involved in getting on the map is something called the virtual high street. And that's been quite a key thing to try and help businesses. You've been running a project. So I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about that. What is this virtual high street?
Yeah, so the virtual high street is a brand new online platform that was created in partnership to support local shopping and within our town centres. And I've got a link as well that I can share. And it all started because Sudbury Town Council they kind of began the initiative because they identified the need during that first lockdown to support town centre businesses digitally, as obviously they couldn't open. So Babergh Mid Suffolk District Council then invested in the initial startup of this and worked closely with in partnership with QPay. They're a tech business based at Innovation Labs in Stowmarket. So it's quite a nice local kind of across the district partnership. And the virtual high street is essentially a town platform that businesses join and have a page on there, and they can then update their page with their own information about themselves, opening times, their services, location, contact, and if they have an existing website link. But it's more than just a business listing, for example. So the idea is that it's essentially your high street that you would physically have, but it's online. So it's accessible to a wider range of customers, not just locally, but further afield. But it is focusing on increasing footfall online, but as well as offline as well. So actual physical footfall as well. It's not there to replace people going into shops. It's there to enhance that. And it's meant to be another marketing tool for businesses. And it's enabled businesses over the last 6 months. So we had a pilot in Sudbury, which started in October last year, and it's allowed businesses to adapt within that 6 months. So businesses are now providing click and collect services, deliveries, and reaching new people through this platform as well as locally. There are people that are now using the virtual high street further afield that realised that a chocolate shop they loved in Sudbury actually could deliver to them, which they didn't know before. So that's a really nice kind of case that's come from that. But it is essentially, it's a town platform and it's place focused rather than necessarily just a national scheme, a kind of online retail scheme. But I could put a link to the website as well on the chat as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. So what we have here is this, just like as we know, a physical high street. We can walk down a physical high street and see the various shops and businesses that are there. This is a virtual version, which will have just kind of businesses that you might well see in a high street, but other businesses as well. And I love that story you've just given of a chocolate shop that actually somebody might have visited Sudbury and now realises that actually, oh well, I can still get that. Yeah. So it's allowing shops to go beyond their locality as well. Yeah. So how else, you've given an example there of the chocolate shop that can now, send their goods out further afield than just their locality. How else has the pilot helped businesses on this virtual high street?
So, like I say, it's meant to be designed as a marketing tool for businesses. So same way as you'd have a website or social media so it kind of matches with the other tools that businesses are already using. But we know within the first month that a third of businesses that were in Sudbury, so that's basically 100 businesses joined within the first month of launching in October. So the need was really there. But we learned from the pilot that actually from this number, 70% didn't have any digital presence before the virtual high street. So we now know that that's a large number of businesses that now have a direct link to customers, which obviously was essential during the lockdown periods, but also in the when we came out of lockdown periods as well. So there was a good kind of drive in the December period when people could go out, but still were kind of the balance of online as well, or could go out just to collect something rather than necessarily do a lot of shopping. Like I say, it's allowed businesses to adapt and continue selling and thriving during the 6-month period, offering new services that suit local people, especially as people working from home and their habits have kind of changed. Also, we know that businesses have been able to show their products online more effectively, or their services to town centre visitors wanting to know what they can purchase before they travel as well. So that need to want to know before actually taking that step to go somewhere is kind of quite important now. But we've been promoting the virtual high street, and it promotes kind of all businesses, like I say. So some have been able to stay open during lockdown, during the whole way through. So we've had market traders, for example, on there who've been able to carry on and have kind of driven their business. But the promotion of the site actually promotes the whole town. So because it's that place based, it promotes everything in the town, not just a few businesses. It kind of that joint promotion promotes the whole the town as a whole, as a destination and an independent kind of shopping centre as well.
Yeah, and what you're telling me here is, in some ways, it allows the local high streets to play with the big boys, really. So you've talked about click and collect. It's enabled people to realise, oh, I can click and collect just as if they were going to one of the bigger supermarkets.
Yeah.
Markets. You know, you've talked about knowing what is there. So just as we know for a lot of people, convenience shopping of looking online, what is it I could get, checking out the prices beforehand, and then deciding, oh yes, I will go to those shops physically then, or remotely, depending again whether we were in lockdown or not. So it sounds to me like it's allowed local shops to take on the big boys and girls. So yeah, how does this tell us a bit more about, maybe, you know, we know, for example, like Amazon, you know, the big players that you can just click and find all that you want. How does the virtual high street perhaps allow smaller businesses to take on the might and the convenience of Amazon then?
I think the one thing that we can probably all agree on is that actually if we could shop as conveniently as we can with Amazon, but all the products come from local shops, we would. I think that's been changing over the last 5 years or so, and I think the pandemic has kind of pushed that shift forward. And the virtual high street has helped to support this change in behaviour over the last year, which has been coming for a while. People want to support their high street and their businesses. They know that the high streets have been struggling for a longer period than just within the pandemic, but it has to fit in with their lives, especially over the last year when people's lives have changed dramatically. But a platform like the virtual high street, it's ready to be explored as a kind of town setting, but also invested in as well. So we know that the impact that it can have of people, for example, people over 18 within a town just spending £5 additionally a week in their local businesses has a dramatic effect on the kind of local economy. And like I say, the virtual high street is quite unique because it's bespoke as it was created. It basically directs you to your local virtual high street from where you're based on your location. So that hassle is taken out from trying to find what is on your doorstep. You're already taken to that. But then because we know our towns are quite connected and people do travel, even local people travel between the towns, you can still go on and see what's actually in your neighbouring town, for example. So it's got a lot of benefits in terms of that location and place setting and taking out that hassle of knowing what is on your doorstep. Because I think sometimes people just don't necessarily know what is out there because of the ease of just going onto Amazon, for example, and clicking through to find what you want. There is a lot there, and there's a wealth of businesses there that can do exactly the same thing that Amazon can, but locally. And the virtual high street takes away some of that hassle of trying to find those businesses and find those items available.
Yeah, fantastic. So it allows you to be able to see what's available locally, and perhaps making that choice. And as you say, a lot of people during lockdown have been much keener to support local business because local business has been supporting us through those challenges. So we've heard that you've had this pilot for Sudbury. So isn't that lovely for Sudbury? And we're not going to be townists. That's great for Sudbury. But what we do also want to know, because this is the Stowmarket Chamber of Commerce, and so it's for Stowmarket and the district surrounding it, So what's the hope for Stowmarket? So great for Sudbury. They've had the pilot. They've got what 300 odd businesses on there already. What's the hope for Stowmarket?
Yeah, so basically it was always meant to be that first 6 months was the pilot period for the virtual high street and launching it in Sudbury. But the idea was always to launch it across the towns, across the district, basically. So from the success of the last 6 months, we have in theory launched in Stowmarket. Like we say, we have actually got some businesses already on there. And part of this is down to, or the key part of this is that we now have a dedicated town centre business liaison officer, Kathy Roll, who I think is in the call as well with us. So this is great. She can introduce herself and put in her details onto the chat. And the idea is that that's something that we found was really needed in Sudbury. They had a town centre manager from their town council who was able to be that key contact with the businesses on the ground, knocking on their doors when they were open and having that key link to be able to establish this and get it going. So that is what Kathy has been doing in the last month or so, going out to businesses. So you might have seen her wandering around Stowmarket recently, speaking to the market as well and getting traders on there. And being that key contact, we realised was really, really important to make sure that the virtual high street was established. And again, it's not just the virtual high street for all of the districts, actually, because it is a bespoke platform that was made or kind of created through as something new. Each of the town platforms can be a bit different. They don't have what works for Sudbury might not necessarily work for Stowmarket. It can be more bespoke than that and can be changed and can be adapted a bit. So there is a bit more freedom with the platform that there might not be for some of the other platforms that are already available, which people have been kind of looking at over the last year because there's that need.
So there's this real sense that the good news for Stowmarket is we have a Kathy then. So if there's a lady called Kathy wandering around the physical high street, she is friend not foe. She's someone that you can chat to and will help you make that connection between the virtual and the real. And you've also talked about this ability for us to, as the town of Stowmarket, this can be tailored to help with that. And again, the wonderful backroom genies I can see have just put Kathy's kind of details as well in the chat function. So this is all sounding really good, really positive, and we're probably starting to think, yeah, but what's the catch? So here's the next question. Is there a catch around cost? What is the cost for businesses?
So this was always set up to be free for this first kind of period that we've got, basically. So this was from the initial start off for this 18-month period that runs till February next year. So basically, it is free for businesses to join up right now and have kind of right through to next year be free, basically, especially in this kind of crucial year. We are currently at the stages now, since having that pilot, of looking at the next stage for having this sustainable model, because obviously in terms of innovation labs as well and Q technology, they're looking at it expanding outside of the district and even nationally as well. So we're now looking at what that future sustainable model will be. Our aim is always for it to be free or as cheap as possible for businesses, because we want it to be about supporting businesses, like you say, bouncing back. We don't want it to be something that is just another thing to have to do or another extra cost. The idea is that it's making it accessible, making and helping businesses and driving that growth as well. So we're now in the stages of looking at what that sustainable model is. We're working that out, but we want it to be as low or free as possible.
Great. So more good news. It just keeps coming. At the moment, it's free. And even when you look at how that increases beyond there's these sort of pilot 1 and pilot 2 type levels, that you're looking to make it sustainable. You're looking to make it manageable for businesses. So the good news keeps coming. So where can they find out about the virtual high street and digital skills? Is it pointing them to this chat function, to the addresses there? Where can they find out about it?
Yep, so you can go onto the virtual high street, which I think the link was put in there, which takes you to the virtual high street site. In terms of actually getting on to the site as a business, speak to Kathy, and her details have been put on there. And yes, it's worth mentioning that we were able to get additional funding from Suffolk Growth for Kathy's post, kind of from the pilot period, but also for a enhanced digital skills program that we're offering alongside this as well, which will be across the district, which will really help from that 70% statistic I was talking about. We know that need is there now, and we're really keen to ensure that people are supported in a range of ways, not just about getting onto the virtual high street, but in terms of simple like things like product photography, security online, a whole range of different things basically to be offer that alongside the virtual high street rollout.
Great. So check out the chat, everyone. See the links there, virtualhighstreet.uk. And if you're any doubt how complicated is this, it isn't. It basically has there's a join button top right when you go on it, and you click that, start to enter your details, and that starts the process. So it's an easy process to do. But if you want further help, you've obviously got Kathy or yourself, Tabitha, that you can get hold of. So we've got this virtual high street. You've said actually the funding has helped with Kathy for Stowmarket, and also about developing digital skills. So so digital skills, can they find out about that as well from yourself or Kathy? Is that?
Yes, you can contact me about digital skills. We're currently so we've appointed Mentor to be leading the digital skills program. We're just kind of fine tuning exactly what the offer will be, and then we're hoping to get out more information about that as soon as possible for businesses to get involved.
So if you as a business think, actually, I could just do with a little bit about developing my digital skills to make sure my business isn't inhibited, get in contact with Tabitha, and then when this comes out through Mentor, then they'll make sure that you get that information. So we just got a chance for a few more of my questions, and then we're going to open it up to the chat. I've noticed that the flurry has started already for you, Tabitha, because I've seen there's one question.
Haven't even looked yet.
Yeah, there's one question that's come through on my list already, and I'm sure that we've got Suzanne keeping an eye on that end. And so if you've got your questions for Tabitha, if there's still things you want to find out, pop that in there. If there's anything else you think Tabitha can help you with, pop that in there. We want that flurry for Tabitha. But a couple more questions from me. During all this time that we've had in lockdown, etc., you've obviously been closely linked with just looking at shopping and behaviours and thinking about virtual high street. So what have you learned about shopping behaviours that might help, our listeners here today?
Like I say, the people want to support local. People want to support their local, not just their local businesses, but their local town and their high streets. People know that the high streets have been struggling for a long time, and it's even kind of been exacerbated by, especially the last year as well. So people were aware of that. There's also really seen a drive to support independence as well. And again, I think that was kind of coming. I think all this stuff was coming, but I think the last year has enhanced that, which for our town centres, especially market towns, is really positive. The other thing that's come up is that people want to, because they've been unable to make the journeys that they would have done before, just to go to somewhere to browse or whatever, they want to know their journey is going to be worth it. So being able, businesses to be able to demonstrate what they have more efficiently is definitely something that people are looking at, because they want to know it's worth their physical visit. So the more you can have kind of available online or through social media or that type of thing, people think it's worth the visit, especially after the last year when we haven't been able to go out as much. And like I say, people are staying at home still. We know that it's going to be, especially for this year, for the UK, it's going to be more staycations, especially in terms of tourism and that side of things. So people are also looking for the non-traditional places to visit. So rather than Southwold and Aldeburgh and that kind of thing, people are looking more for the kind of the non-discovered places, as they're calling it. So people are looking to places like market towns, so Stowmarket as well, for other towns to visit. And I think our market town's a really good offer of that. So if we can show that offer to more people, because it is a great offer, more people will come and then spend more money as well.
Absolutely. So if people are literally doing a staycation, staying at home and just visiting some of the local towns that they've not been to before, or if they are holidaying in this country and they won't just want to go to the Southwolds. And we heard from one of our sponsors yesterday with the Regal and the opening of the Regal in the high street and what that can bring in. And then if other businesses as well are being advertised in the virtual high street, someone can check on there first. If I go to this market town, what can I find there? Oh, there's the Regal, but actually there's also this I can visit, and I could make contact with them and we could have a photo done or whatever. And are they available? Oh, yes, I can check that. So that's great to hear about those sort of behaviours to let us know as businesses. Our digital presence and letting people know our availability can be really helpful to funnel business our way. So last question from me, Tabitha, before we unleash the torrent on you, the nice torrent, of course, of questions from other people. Is there any other advice you can give at this time for our businesses to help them bounce back?
Well, I think the last year has shown us that businesses and town centres have had to adapt to survive, really, and actually our towns across kind of Babergh and Mid Suffolk have actually been doing this quite well, and the virtual high street is just another way of doing this and reacting to this changing, strange world that we're now in, and consumer and visitor behaviour kind of locally and wider. And I'm sure that we can agree that anything within our towns that supports businesses and builds resilience and high street growth and local economy has to be good. So we're hoping that people can get involved in the virtual high street and kind of go along this journey with us.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So Tabitha, thank you from me so far. And now we've got some questions. And in a moment, I'm just going to ask Suzanne to see what's on her list. But I can see I've got one here already that's come in direct to me from Alison Withers. So Alison, do you want to unmute yourself and then ask your question for Tabitha?
Yeah. Some of you know, and you perhaps don't, Tabitha, I'm on the Stowmarket Chamber Committee, but I'm actually based in Ipswich, which is not an issue for me because I work remotely. Everything is remote and always has been. But the one thing that worries me a little bit about this, and I haven't yet tried to join, is businesses outside located in other places, but who will trade within, as I do. I mean, I've got clients that I do work for in Stowmarket, which is how I ended up on the committee. It feels a bit like it's a bit parochial and we're being shut out. Now, what would you say to people like that?
So I can say honestly, that is the last thing we want. The last thing we want is people to feel like they're not included in this. So even though this is something that's come from just the pilot period as well, even though we know it is called the virtual high street, actually we know that it's more of a virtual town in some ways, because we know that the high streets are not just those physical presence shops that are when you walk down a specific streets. We know that they're wider than that. We know that there's markets there's independent traders that have their business in their house that don't have a physical presence. We know there's lots more than that. We know there's the industrial estates as well. So we don't want people to feel like they can't join this. We're very keen to ensure that people are able to, and that's why we've never set parameters to have just certain types of businesses or certain areas of businesses to join. It's just at the moment we've named the 5 towns as the places where they're kind of setting up as the base. But again, because it is virtual, like you say, if you're trading in Stowmarket, there's no reason why you can't join the Stowmarket virtual high street.
Great. So thank you for, in one sense, dispelling a worry or a rumour that could generate. And Alison, thank you for asking that question.
I must admit that the calling it virtual high street, but bearing in mind I'm a bit pedantic because my job is words, high street to me says shops. So that's quite useful.
Yeah, so that's really great, Tabitha. You've been able to just clarify for that. And Alison, thank you for asking it, because it's enabled us just to go, no, actually, it's about the community of Stowmarket, about businesses, shops, whatever shape or size we come into.
I was going to say, it's worth me adding on there. If you have a look on the virtual high street, there's the kind of key categories that basically businesses are put into. And there's a big range on there. So it isn't just your usual high street shops. There's specialist services on there. There's accommodation. There's a whole range on there. So I'm sure there will be a fit for people. And if there isn't, the one thing about it being bespoke is that we can create our own.
That's great. And just to reassure, I have gone in there myself, and I know I fit under the specialist services. I don't have a shop window, and I can't necessarily, well, I could sell you something, but it's more my services than something else. So again, just to reassure people, if you're thinking, but hang on, I don't normally have a shop window, it means it's accessible for all of us. So I've got another question that's come direct to me for you, and it's Tracy from Taylor and Maid Travel. So Tracy, again, has just got quite a good, useful question here. So Tracy, do you want to ask that question of Tabitha?
Yeah, thank you. I went on there to have a look and started to sign up, and then it was asking about an address. And I'm a travel agent, but I work from home, and I wouldn't want to advertise my address and have people knocking on my front door at god awful times of day and night, because it is it's where I live. It's not where I trade from. I go and meet clients in a public place. So is it, I mean, I've skipped over it, but is that acceptable? Is that something that, they're not going to suddenly ask why?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. We're actually in a kind of third phase of development in terms of the actual platform as well. So if there are any of those kind of things that come up, they're really useful for us to know to be able to take forward. So we haven't had specific we haven't made some things mandatory to have down there. I think the main thing is that you have as much information about your business as possible that obviously is relevant to you. The more you have on there, then the more, in terms of that information, then the more you're obviously able to provide for people as well. So don't worry, you don't have to provide your address on there, I'm pretty sure.
Great, that's great. Thank you again for just clarifying that. So that question that Tracy and Alison have both had, are probably a question that a number of us might be thinking. So there'll be a number like Tracy that operate from home, but it's still a very relevant business or service for people to want to find out about in Stowmarket. So great, thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Alison, and thank you, Tabitha, for your answers there. So I'm going to now check with Suzanne, who's our chatty person here. Suzanne, have we got any other questions for Tabitha? Who could we ask?
We have a few. Yes, we have a few. Julie Kett, is she still with us? Yes, Julie has a question. I'll hand over.
When is it going to start in Needham Market, and will the period you have for businesses in Needham still be free? Because obviously you're saying till February.
Yes, so we're hoping to get started there as soon as possible. Basically, we've started off with Sudbury, we've then gone on to obviously Stowmarket and Hadley, just because they're the ones that have progressed furthest in terms of the other vision work, and that's why the virtual high streets kind of followed along at the same pace. So then we'll now be looking at and Needham Market to deliver these, and we are definitely seeing progress moving forward, especially with Kathy now being enrolled. We're able to see that delivery move forward a lot quicker. So yes, it will definitely be, we're hoping, to be honest, to be before the summer period.
I'm sorry, I'm going to drill you down a bit finer than that, because obviously I live in Needham Market. I do apologise, everybody. I do go to Stowmarket, I hasten to add.
Julie, just to reassure you, don't need to apologise for being in Needham Market. I'm sure we're not townist here, so
no. Okay, fine. Okay,
good.
Point taken. I like that. No, but I'm just.
so nicely follow up your drilling then with Tabitha. What is it?
You're saying summer.
So hopefully before, so we'll be looking at actually engaging with businesses in the May period to then be able to. So we already have a platform there, but Kathy is 3 days a week at the moment. So doing that training around. Yes, we'll be doing that within the next month or so. Yeah.
Right, and I'm just seeing in the chat, and you can maybe confirm this, Tabitha. It's saying the platform for Needham Market does exist at the moment.
So we have set up the kind of key platforms, so we have to monitor them, obviously, but we just obviously aware that to really get them moving, get them started, it was easier to kind of engage with the towns as we go along to then get businesses on board, because part of this is also being able to have more of a launch to promote it, obviously, to public as well. We don't just want it to be, well, it exists, we don't need to do much more. We want to make sure that we're getting the publicity for this right and the marketing for this right, to ensure that there is that footfall that is created and continuously available there as well.
Great, thank you, Tabitha.
Thank you.
So Suzanne, we've got a couple more minutes left, so have we got any more questions in our gentle torrent heading Tabitha's way?
Yes, we certainly have. Sharon Jenkins has a question.
Sharon, over to you.
I think this is wonderful. I think it's great, and I love how it looks in Sudbury. I think it's a lovely platform to visit and easy to move around. How, when it's all up and running, how do you then spread the word so that residents and visitors know it's there and what's on it?
Yeah, so we're looking back to how it was done in Sudbury. Obviously, we can adapt how we do it for Stowmarket because every town is different. So the way we did, one of the key ways that we did it initially was obviously through our immediate comms team that we have for the district council, and working with the town council as well for more local publicity. We also had QR codes that were actually available for shop windows to put up in the high street. So there was more of a visible presence in the high street as well. Obviously, that was during the actual lockdown period, so a lot of the shops were closed, but we still see that they are a very valid way of being able to share this platform physically, because people are getting out and going into shops, which is great. So shops can actually say, did you know you also are on the virtual high street? Here's a link to it if you haven't been to it already. So we are looking at the best ways to do the most successful launch for the virtual high street, and like I say, to continue that and keep the momentum going, because we don't want it to lose momentum. We want to keep it being established. And again, what we found in Sudbury is the combined business to business then promotion as well, and kind of mentioning and that type of thing also really helps, because towns can kind of support their own virtual high street and push people towards it. So I think that's helped. So a kind of combined approach is what we're planning to do.
Great, lovely. So Sharon, thank you for that question, and Tabitha, thank you for that explanation. Just to update people as well, you've probably seen it in the chat as an update from Kathy saying you can join up on the Needham Market platform now if you're happy. She monitors them all. So Kathy clearly has great powers in monitoring them all. So that's great as well. So yeah, back to Suzanne. Have we got anybody else just to finish off with our questions here? Have we got any more questions?
Yes, we've got a couple more, but I'm wondering if they just want to finish off, or
well, seeing as there's two in the chat, we better let them both have a question. So let's go for them.
We'll go with Kate because it's nice and to the point. So Kate, can you?
So Kate has a nice and to the point question. Go for it, Kate.
I just wondered, you think of the high street and you think of shops, and you've made it clear that it's not just shops, but can things like the museums also sign up?
So this is one of the kind of next development stages that we're looking at. So we were keen to ensure that we had all the basic kind of software elements on there for the virtual high street, for the pilot, and then obviously for the rollout. But we're currently working with QPay for this next stage, and part of that is looking at the wider offer that can be on there for the towns. So it can also include the other organisations that aren't necessarily businesses on there as well, to promote the town as a whole. So if people are looking to visit, they can see all the businesses that are there and actually engage with them straight away and start buying things, as well as look at what they could do there or where they could stay. So we're keen to see that next step, and that will be in this next development stage, as well as potential for organizations like that to then have things like events on there, or events listings, or selling tickets. So the e-commerce side of the platform as well as another aspect that's within this next development stage that we've been able to fund.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks, Kate. Thank you, Tabitha. And our last question then, Suzanne.
Our last question to Capital is from Alan Scott.
Hi, Tabitha.
All right, there we go.
Obvious question then.
Just
really.
rounding.
Just to ask you, really, we've got people from various different organisations here today, I'm very pleased to say. How can we best help you to roll this out and make it a success? What assistance do you need? What support do you need from us?
Oh, I think the best thing is, like I say, spreading the word. I think word of mouth has been one of the key things that we've kind of seen the example in Sudbury. And I think that one thing that has come from it is actually it's encouraged more businesses to talk together and work together in different ways that they might not have done before. And I think actually, like I was saying before, I think the focusing on it's the town, it's not just the high street, it's the town. So actually the businesses working together, or if people have different social media accounts, for example, being able to support each other and their presence on the virtual high street, it then supports everyone, because if someone goes to the virtual high street, it's not specifically for one business, it's for all the businesses. So actually being able to encourage that, I think, has seen, especially in Sudbury, that grow as it's gone along, because businesses have been supporting each other. It's then meant that the virtual high street in that town is supported, then other ones are able to be supported. So it's kind of built as it's gone along, which is something that's been really great to see. So I think that's something that, and yeah, spreading the word as well.
Okay, that's something I'm sure we're all very keen to do. I must admit, I think certainly it's one of the most exciting developments I've seen in a while. I'm very proud of the fact that it's come out of Innovation Labs in Stowmarket, as the original software concept. But it's great that you guys have really picked up the ball and run with it the way that you have. It's really exciting to see what's happening, and it's great to think also, I think, that our area here, our region, is really at the forefront of this kind of technology at the moment, rolling out something I think in the long run would benefit the whole country.
Yeah,
very exciting stuff. So thanks very much indeed for that.
That's all right, thank you.
Great. So thank you, Alan, for that question. And as we said earlier, no pressure. This is now, it's going to roll out to the whole country as well, as Alan just reminded us. So Tabitha, thank you.
Kathy might be dealing with a surge after this.
Yeah. So for Kathy and for Tabitha, no pressure for you guys at all. So just want to say a huge thank you, Tabitha, for coming on, sharing the thinking about the virtual high street, helping us just iron out what it is. And it's a virtual town And actually, we just had a notification saying there's been 4 sign-ups since we've even been on. So there you go. The impact already starting to
That's
happen.
how easy it is.
Yeah, and Sean's also reminded us on the chat that there is a cultural and event venues section on there as well. So that actually, if you're one of those, you can sign up in that section. But Tabitha, thank you for coming today. Thank you for answering both my questions and for others, helping us see how this can help us bounce back for business. And thank you also for being one of our sponsors of this event.
That's all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I've seen already there's been some of this virtual and physical clapping. Thank you for that. And I'm going to hand back now to Alan to just close off for this last part of our time together.